Welcome to the Barnyard Gang video tutorials. We are going to be starting our characters in these videos. And what I want to do first is talk with you about different kinds of yarn that you can use to make these characters. Now they're meant to be 3.5 to 4 inches in length, just because that's the best size to fit inside of the barn. So as you can see, here is 3.5 inches. This isn't a very big character, and here's 4. 4 is about as tall as they get. They really aren't very big characters because we are fitting 5 of them into a bag. All right, so let's start with what hook do I use. I use an F 3.75 millimeter hook. My favorite yarns, or my go-to yarns for amigurumi, are the Hobby Lobby. I love this yarn in their sport weight. It's a nice thin sport. So I've got a couple of different colors of that here. I'll be interchanging these with Baby Bee Sweet Delight. They're very close in their thickness and their texture. So I like to just kind of stick to those 2 yarns just because they seem to work up with the most consistency for me. Now I've got a variety of colors that I've got here. First character that we're going to be working on is going to be Jedediah, the farmer. So you can choose a skin tone. I decided to go with Sandcastle. It's just a kind of neutrally beige tone. You can go as dark or as light as you want. You could go full-fledged white if you really want them pale. You could go nice and chocolate brown if you want them darker. So whatever you would like to use for your skin tone, it's completely up to you. So I'm going to be using this, let's see, what is this called? Sandcastle. Yep, the taupe color for the skin. And then you need to have a shirt color. And I'm probably going to use, I'm going to grab a different color off the shelf for my shirt. And then I'm going to use this for his pants. I'm probably going to use the brown for his hair or his hat, and I may use black for his hair. I'm not sure. I'm going to throw these colors around a little bit. We'll play with them. Otherwise, I'm also going to probably use this, and I'm going to show you what you can do to make a girl farmer as well. The characters themselves, the body of the person lends itself to making it whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be a boy, and it doesn't have to be a girl. It can be any one of them. So they're interchangeable. All right, let's go ahead and get started. And I am going to start with a magic ring, even though the original instructions say to start with a chain 2 and 6 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. I am going to start with a magic ring just because I feel like they pull a little bit tighter. And so I'm going to chain 1 with my magic ring. And then I'm going to put 6 single crochets into this larger hole that I have here. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, if you joined me for the making of the barn, you will remember that we worked a good portion of that in the round, which means that we do not join our rows when we get to the end of them. We are simply going to be marking the first stitch of the row each time that we go through, because we're going to go right into the next stitch. We're not going to join it and then chain 1. That's going to leave an awkward row of joins. I don't like the way that it looks. I prefer the round. So go right into that first single crochet, do 1, and then do 1 more right in that same space. So you should have 2 stitches in that 1 hole right now. I'm going to take this and mark the very first stitch between those 2. So that's 1, 2. Now do 2 more in the next stitch. That'll be 3, 4. And do that in the third stitch. That'll be 5, 6. And then we're going to continue that in the next 3. So in total, we will have 12 single crochets going around. Now, another thing that I love about doing these small amigurumi is they work up so fast. So it's easy to make them and do them up quickly and get a quick result from them. All right, let's do the next round. This one is going to be another increase round. So we are going to do 1 single crochet in the first single crochet, 2 into the next. So that'll be a total of 3 stitches between those 2 stitches. And then we're going to do 1 and an increase. And that's what putting 2 single crochets in the same spot means, is an increase. So 1 and an increase. We've done that 3 times. 1 and an increase. And so when we get to the end of this round, we will have a total of 18 stitches because we are increasing a total of 6 stitches per round. 1, 2, and 3. Now, when you count your amigurumi going in the round, your stitches are going to jog to the right. So while this is the first stitch of round 1, or I should say round 2, this is the first stitch of round 3. You have to work all the way around and back to that beginning stitch in order to count the row as having been done. It's good to mark the rows as you move through them. We're going to be working round 4 through 8 in each stitch. We're not going to be increasing at all. So this is where I would probably move this stitch marker into place here. And now you can move it every row if it's confusing for you in the beginning. Otherwise, what I do is I just keep crocheting and then I count my rows as I go. So, all right, I'm going to do 4 and then we're going to do 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we've got another 4 rows after this. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how I count it in just a couple more rows. All right, just to show you how I'm kind of leaving my stitch marker in one spot, but I'm going to be counting my rows. This is row 4 here, and like I said, our stitches are going to jog up to the right. So the stitch right above that is 5, and this one is 6. So as long as I know that my ending stitch over here is right before the first stitch of the row here, this right here is also row 6. Because we're going to be continually building on in a jog-like fashion. This will never show, so don't worry about that. But just to let you know, and I've got 2 more rows to go, and then I'll be back here with you. Okay, so I've reached the end of round 8. I've also gone ahead and marked it, and we are going to start round 9. And this round is going to be single crochet decreasing all the way around. And I'm going to show you how to do an invisible decrease. Okay, so the way that a normal decrease is done is you put your hook through both sets of loops and you pull up a loop and you put it through and you pull up a loop and then you go through all 3. And that makes a fairly bulky stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to make something called an invisible single crochet decrease, which takes up a lot less space and looks a lot nicer, especially when you're making little human amigurumis or, well, anything with any kind of shaping. So we're going to work in the front loop only. So grab the front loop and then go right away into the next front loop only. Pull through 2 loops and then pull through 2 loops again. We're going to do that again. Go through just the front loop and through just the front loop. Pull through both of those loops and pull through the next set of 2 loops. We're going to do this all the way around. So we're going to have a total of 9 stitches left on our hook. All right, and I'm just going to show you real quick. It's just a less bulky look. and it helps to pull in your work without creating big, wide, open gaps. Because if you've ever done regular single crochet decreases, they create holes. These do not. Now, as soon as I finish all of these single crochet decreases, I should say invisible single crochet decreases, we are going to begin to stuff our man or woman, whomever you are making. Because if we do not stuff it now, we are going to hate ourselves later. Okay. Because right now the opening is at the best for putting stuffing in. So we're going to take some polyfiber fill, and we just do this in small chunks. We're not looking to stuff a huge amount in there right off the bat. And as a matter of fact, if it's too tight for you, you may want to actually wait until you have all of your, I should say, wait to finish all of your decreases until you can get some polyfiber in there. All right, so I'm kind of happy with that. It's not too stuffed. It's not too loose. I am going to throw just a little bit more in there, and I'm going to show you a little trick. Sometimes just to help pull things through, I will shove my crochet hook up in there, and I'll just use it like the little hook it is. And I will pull stuff down, and I'll even use my ends to tap things in. Because depending on how small your amigurumi is, you just have to use what's available to make life simple for yourself. All right, and I feel like that it's got a decent amount of squish to it, but we're not looking for this to necessarily be hard as a rock. You got to remember, this is still for little ones, and we want them to be able to have fun holding on to it. All right, so round 10 says we're going to decrease one more time. And so we're going to go into the first set of 2 loops. We're going to single crochet. Now we're going to do another invisible decrease. Okay, and we're going to go into the next. And we should have a total of 6 stitches left on. And 1 more invisible decrease. All right, woohoo. And we'll just take a moment. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 stitches. My recommendation is for you to move your stitch marker up to the first stitch in that row so that we can keep track. All right. Now round 11 says we're going to single crochet into each. So go ahead. It's a little bit fiddly, a little bit tight, a little bit close. That's okay. Take your time. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now that's his neck. So we are going to then increase to create his shoulders. So you can move this up if you want. I would wait until you get your first 2 stitches in here. So there's 1 and 2. Now I would move this marker because we're manipulating the way that our first stitch of the row is looking again, and I don't want you to get confused. So put your stitch marker into the first of those 2 stitches that you just made, and now do 2 single crochets into the remaining. You should have 12 single crochets when you're done with this round. So this is 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so I am going to be switching over to my shirt color, which means you can snip your skin color and set it aside. Since I've got these nice bright blue pants that I'm going to be doing, I decided that I am going to do a nice bright green shirt. Now here, I want you to go ahead and back out and put the last 2 loops back on your hook, because we're going to change colors, and it's easier to just do it this way and pull through those 2 loops. And make sure you hold on to these guys and tuck them in or single crochet them in as you're going around. In row 13, we're going to begin increasing again. So we're going to single into 1 and 2 single crochet into the next. So when we finish this round, we are going to have 18 stitches. Okay, 2 and 3, 4, 5 and 6. I know my yarn might be in your way. Sorry about that. 7, 8 and 9. 10, 11, and 12, 13, 14, and 15. And then these guys are just in my way now, so I'm going to go ahead and cut them off. 16, 17, and 18. Now, do we have a small jog of color here? Yes, we do. And it really isn't going to show because we have got arms that we're going to sew onto here. We've got overall straps that we're going to be putting across the neck. So there's going to be plenty of ways to hide that jog. Don't worry about that right now. Now, the body's not going to be any wider than 18 stitches. So we're going to just start working into the round. And I want you to, I just put 3 stitches in. I am moving my stitch marker to the first single crochet of this round, just because it makes it easy to just go, go, go. And I want you to single crochet rows 14, 15, and 16. And then we're going to be changing our color to our pants, or if you want to put a dress on, change it over to your dress color. I will show you how to attach a dress. Now, the dress is not in the written instructions, so you're only getting the dress instructions in this tutorial. So I will show you how to do both of them. For now, go ahead and just finish up rows 14 through 16. Okay, so we are going to change over to our jean color. And I've got a girl started here, so I'm going to go ahead and snip that off. I just altered the colors. Now, I'm going to show you how to make a dress on the girl, but that's only if you want her to wear a dress. It's going to be a cute little farm bib overall thing. But you can always use the same pant pattern for the boy. I'm going to show you how to make girl hair and all that stuff too. But we're going to finish up with the boy first, and then we'll do the girl. All right, so this is my pant color. Go ahead and join like so. We're going to continue to work in the round. And so single. And you don't have to move your marker, because this really is kind of self-evident where the first stitch is, but I just do it out of habit because It helps me keep track of everything. And keep working in these stitches going around. Now this is row 17. We are going to work in the round, or continue working just straight single crochets through row 21. So now that I have these colors nicely tucked in here, I'm just going to snip and keep going here. I know that normally, and I've told you before that I like to do back secure when I do the snipping off of colors and stuff, but I've never had any of my amigurumi come apart. Just make sure that if you are going to sew in your end, crochet around your yarn, you get at least halfway to 3/4 of the way around the body before you cut it off. Otherwise, if you only do a few stitches, then you do face more of a likelihood that your toy is going to come apart on you. All right, so we've completed round 1, or round 17. So I'm going to go ahead and start my 18. I'm going to move my stitch marker, and I'm going to keep working these rounds. I'll see you after round 21. Okay, round 21 is done, and I'm going to be moving on to round 22, where we are going to be decreasing again. So we are going to be doing a few more invisible decreases. So single crochet in the first, and then do your invisible decrease in the next. So it's single crochet in one, decrease in the next, all the way around. And you should find yourself with 12 stitches at the end of this round. All right, and at this point we are going to now continue to stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, that little trick that I showed you before about sticking my hook up in here, because it's kind of, we need to pull some of the stuffing down into the neck area to strengthen it up. So we're going to and then we grab on, and I just kind of pull. Try not to catch your stitches from the inside. Just try to catch the fiber fill. And the fiber fill likes to get a little bit chunky in spots sometimes. This stuff likes to stick together. There is another one that I really prefer to use, but I haven't been able to find it in years, and it's a little bit softer. It comes apart a little bit better, but I mean, I'm not going to complain. Polyfiber is polyfiber, right? All right, so we've got a little bit more stability in his neck. It's kind of beefed out his head a little bit more. We're going to go ahead and continue to stuff him. We're going to not necessarily go super light. I'm going to stuff him probably a little bit more than might seem normal, because it will even itself out once we finish his bum and we finish off his underside. And you do have to do some shaping, so use that hook to pull things down where you want it to be. All right, I feel like that is a little too much. I'm gonna need a little more in that area. When the stuff just won't go in, it's okay to just rip it off, and I just kind of twist and fluff it in there like so. All right, so he's a little lumpy, but the beauty of polyfiber fill is that you can you can really manipulate it to get it to do what you want. And I really use my hook for just about everything, just because it helps me. I know that there are people who have special like sticks that they use to move their fluff around, but I never found those useful. Not when I've got a hook in my hand and I can manipulate the fluff that way. All right, so I've got him fluffed the way that I want him. And now we are going to do a full decrease all the way around. Now this is his bum. I don't really care if these decreases show up so much. I'm just going to do regular old single crochet decrease to close him up, because we're going to be putting legs on the bottom of him and it's never going to show. That's 4 and 5 and 6. You should end up with 6 stitches. Slip stitch to the first one, leave a little bit of a length because we got to close them up on the bottom. Get out your large eye needle, and then I just weave through the stitches on the bottom. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you my favorite trick. I go through the top of the stitch and then I go through the body of the actual decrease itself. And it seems to pull it down without leaving holes. So in through the top of the stitch and through the body of the decrease, in through the top, through the body, top and body, and one more top and body. All right, so when I pull them up nice and tight on the bottom, it doesn't leave me like a big gaping hole that I have to deal with. Now I'm just gonna bring this up here and I'm gonna weave it in to the stitches, and I'm going to catch it and I'm going to weave it in one more time. This little guy won't come apart unless you take a pair of scissors to him. All right, so here is our farmer body. And we're going to start with his shoes and pants. We are not going to be stuffing the arms or the legs. You can if you want. I find them to be too small for stuffing, and it's to me it's just irritating, so I don't bother. You are more than welcome to stuff them if you choose. I will not be showing that procedure in this video though. All right, so I am going to just use a regular black color for his shoes. And then I'm going to also use the blue color to finish off the legs of his pants. So starting with the black, we're going to once again kind of vary from the instructions, and I'm going to use a magic ring as opposed to the chain 2. So chain 1 and 6 single crochet into that circle. 4, 5, and 6. Pull it, and then we're going to do 2 single crochets in each single crochet around. Thankfully, we're not going to be on the black for very long. It's only going to be 4 rows because I know this is a very hard color to see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's even kind of hard for me to see right here in person. So working whatever shoe color you have, do 2 single crochet in the first and each one around. So you're going to end up with 12 single crochets. All right, there's 3 and 4, and at this point I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4 go back and mark my first single crochet of this round. 5, 6, sorry, I had to pull one out. 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, and 11 and 12. Now the next directions say to single crochet in 4, then we're going to single decrease twice, and then we're going to single crochet in the last 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and quite honestly, I'm going to get rid of this thing because it's in my way. Then we're going to single decrease twice. So there's 1, and there's 2. And then we're going to single in the last 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's well embedded now. And then we're going to do the last row in black, and it's 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to push my shoe to the outside, 4, and then we are going to decrease one more time. So 1, 2, and then we're going to single in the last 4 again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Go ahead and cut that black. We'll make 2 of these, but we just made a little foot and we shaped it. I don't know how easy that is to see. I'm gonna see if I can get it to zoom in. Alrighty. Get your pant color and attach it. Now rows 5 through 13 are going to be single crocheting in each single crochet. You should have 9 single crochet as you go around. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Hallelujah. We got it. Tell you what, that black is hard to see. All right, so this is row 5. This is row 6. And just for counting purposes, I am marking row 6 so that I can easily count the first row or first single crochet of each row and know when I hit row 13. And so I am going to go ahead and finish off this leg, and then I'm going to make a second one, and then I'm going to come back and we will attach them to our body. Okie doke, I have 2 legs here, and now I'm going to apply them to his body. I'm going to keep my jogs to the back of him, so when I apply the legs, got to figure out where your toes are, and it's going to be the area that kind of pokes out towards, you know, one side or the other. So this has finished off quite naturally towards the back. And I'm going to just weave my yarn in and pull just a little bit to kind of snug in the back end of the leg. Now, this is where straight pins will come in handy. So you can poke them in the body and keep your legs where you want them to be attached. I'm going to put 3 or 4 of them in here to hold them down. All right, so that's where that leg is going to sit. And now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And weave that yarn just a little bit in the back. Snug it up just a little, not a lot. And then I'm going to place the other leg in conjunction with the first leg so that it seems kind of naturally placed. Now I have put these on here plenty of times without having used stick pins before, and my legs like to travel and move positions on me when I don't use straight pins. So that's one of the reasons why I do recommend using straight pins to attach your work, because it just helps to keep everybody where it's supposed to be while you are snugging and when you are, you know, attaching your parts. All right, so I just kind of whip stitched this, and I will go and catch part of the body and then stitches on the leg itself. And I do that all the way around. I try not to push so hard that the needles come through, because I just had one stab me. But don't squeeze too hard. But then as you're going past them, go ahead and just remove them. And I also try to just work within the loops of the last row that I worked on that leg, as opposed to into the stitches further up on the leg, because you don't want these stitches here to interfere with the way that your legs look. You want to kind of almost make it look like you didn't sew them on separately, that they were all part of the pants as you were making them. Okay, I'm gonna take that one off. Excuse me. And then this guy's in my way. All right, almost done. And we're at the beginning. All right, great. That leg is attached nicely. So what I will do is then poke my needle up into the body up here, and then I'll weave my ends in up in the body. And I try to make sure that they're nice and snug and nobody is able to see them or dig them out. Keeps little fingers from trying to destroy things. All right, one more leg. And using the same idea, and I just want to make sure that I have it where I want it. Sometimes these ones in the center right in here can be a little thick to get through, but if you can just kind of muscle it. And that's why we use these, why I use the stronger, thicker, large eye needles that are metal. I'm not a fan of using the plastic ones because I don't feel like there's enough strength in them for some of the pieces that I put together. Felt like the top of that leg was getting a little bit thin. So if you have to readjust while you're going, do it. If it maybe feels like it's getting super skinny at the top of the leg, you can just adjust as you're going. And we're back at the beginning. Once again, I'm going to just poke that needle through into the body and all right, legs are in place. He now has his pants all done. And like I said, you may have to just kind of play around with him a little bit. His legs are the same length, but it just depends on where you sew them on. Plus, you want him to be able to move around. Alrighty, and you'll have to reshape his body a little bit if you're squeezing on him. Next, I'm going to make his arms, and I'm going to start with his skin tone, and we're going to put 6 single crochet into a magic ring. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now his arms are never going to get bigger than 6 single crochets around. So from row 2 onward, we are just single crocheting into every single crochet. Now we are going to do rows 2 and 3 in flesh tone. So I'm counting this out: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, I'm gonna get that out of the way. I'm gonna do one more round of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, it is the nature of stuff when you're working in the round for it to curl in on itself. And a lot of people will leave the wrong side of their single crochets facing outward. I don't like the way that that looks. So whether you do it on row 2 or you do it on row 3, get in there and grab the bottom of your work and turn it right side out again. Okay, so there's our hand, and I'm actually going to back up 1 stitch and redo to right there, and I'm going to clip, and I'm going to use the shirt color, and we are going to single crochet rows 4 through 10 in the shirt color. And you should still never have more than 6 single crochets. It gets a little bit easier to do once you get more rows on here. I'm just trying right now to get my ends tacked in. Okay. Obviously need to sharpen those scissors. All right, and then at this point, just keep on going. Okay, so this is row 5. I'm going to go ahead and mark this so that, and I'm going to need to trim that. All right, go ahead, continue this through row 10, and then make one more of these because we need 2 arms, and then I will be back with you so that we can apply them to the body. All right, so I went ahead and I finished up both of the arms, and we're going to attach the arms to the sides of our farmer now. And then the next thing that we're going to work on is going to be doing his hair and extra pieces. So you can, as you can see, there's this jog here. I usually try to flatten the piece so that that goes to the back of the body. And then this is where that jog happens in his neckline. So in order to hide that, I will usually put an arm over the top of that. So you just kind of flatten it up against him. And then I start and I whip stitch him in place, but I go through part of the body stitches and then I go through the top stitches of that row. And then I will continue doing that. And I'll just turn as I go. And it's more about tacking it down firmly than it is necessarily having it be super pretty. The only reason I say that is because no matter how you tack it down, nobody really sees those stitches anyway. We're going to cover it with some overall straps. So nobody's really going to see that. And you want to make sure that your arms are not going to be ripped off more than you want to be pretty with your stitches. Now, if you can manage to do both, kudos to you. I am not one of those people that can do both pretty stitches and make sure they're safe. So I worry about safe first. All right. Well, that was nice and simple. And now we're going to put arm number 2 on. All right, there's my jog. And then on this side, I try to look at the top and make sure that where I'm putting my arms matches. I'm trying to look through this camera. It's not so great, but I feel like that is a pretty even spot. And I'm going to start from this side. And I'll work across the top of the arm. All right, and then I'm going to stick one in the side, and then we're going to tack down his armpit. All right, and then I'm just going to throw an extra one in there. And now this one, and see, I don't always secure my stitches in the same spot. Sometimes I do it in the arm, sometimes I do it in the armpit. It's just wherever you want it. And whatever works for you. All right, here we have got arms on our farmer. and they're pretty evenly spaced. His hips are a little funky, huh? But he's gonna work. No little kid is gonna look at that and be like, oh, mom, that, or auntie, or whoever makes this for them, that's off by a millimeter. I can't play with that toy. They're not even gonna care. Alrighty, so we are going to work with our straps for our pants, and we're going to attach with blue to a slip stitch to the post of the single crochet from the front of the pants. So we're going to go, and I want my straps to be basically about there, so I'm going to start right there, and I am going to chain 15. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then I'm going to, excuse me again, carefully take it over the top. And I'm going to meet it back here in the middle of his pants. And I'm going to slip stitch. Now, if you find that 15 chains is a little too roomy for your straps, like this is a little bit loose, so I'm going to actually back off by 1 or 2 chains. Because I want it to be tight enough so it's not necessarily falling off of his shoulders all the time. And then, you know, sometimes you have to have extra patience for these things. All right, there we go. And then I'm going to do another 13 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And I'm going to carefully take that back over the top, and I'm going to slip stitch it to the front of his pants. There we go. And I'm going to chain one just to secure it and pull that through. All right, so here are his bib overalls. Like I said, if you feel like your chains are too loose and they're going to be coming off and that's going to be irritating for you, you can make them tighter. I happened to chain pretty loosely when I did this, so I think normally I am a little bit tighter than that, but I wanted to make sure that I had enough to go around. So on my next one, I will probably stitch those just a little bit tighter. The other thing that you can do too is if you don't want to take the chance of them moving at all, you can go like this, pop up here in his strap and just come up in one and go down in the other. And that strap will never move from that spot. And then you can just finish tucking that end in. So that it doesn't come off. All right. Now I think I'm probably going to do that on the other shoulder as well, just to make sure that my strap doesn't move around on me. Just go in, pop up through one of the strap stitches, and go back down in another, There we go. Just fiddle fingers today. And down. And then just weave in the last bit of it. Now, seeing me do this ahead of time, you may want to leave your ends a little bit longer to be able to do that kind of tuck in. I don't think that anybody's going to be ripping the straps off of my farmer anytime soon. So I'm happy with the way that that turned out. He is basically done. The only thing we have to do is put a face and a hair and hat on him. I'm going to get those pieces together and I'll be right back. All right, so I've gathered all my pieces together for his hair and face. We're going to do some baby blue eyes. And I didn't have any DK weight. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking a worsted weight and I am splitting it apart into two separate strings. And I didn't have any red of the DK, so what I did is I took a worsted weight and I ripped it apart and made two strand parts for mouths. You only need a little bit, so you don't have to do a great big piece. All right, so let's go ahead and the instructions for the hair that I'm going to do are also not in the pattern. You can embroider hair on like I have in the picture, or I'm going to teach you how to make a hair cap. And a hair cap is essentially, we are going to do the first 1, 2, 3 rows of his hair, of his head, and then we're going to sew that on. And it's just going to be a little cap of brown hair. So I'm just doing 6 single crochets, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we're going to do, working in the round, we're going to do 2 single crochets in every single crochet going around. So 1, 2, mark that first single crochet, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now we're going to do one more increase row, and if you remember from the top of his head, it's 1 single crochet in the next and then an increase in the next stitch after that. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3 in the next, so 1, 2, okay, and then 4, and then 5, 6, then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, 17, 18. So you should have 18 stitches when you get to the end of this run. Now what we're going to do is we're going to quick try on our hair. Let's see if we like the way this looks. Okay, do we like it that length or do we want it to be a little bit longer? I think I'm going to make it just a tiny bit longer. So at this point, I'm just going to single crochet in each single crochet for 1 row. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, 17, 18. Okay, we're going to try that on him one more time. All right, that's not too bad. He looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch to the first single crochet and pull through. I'm going to leave a nice long end so that I can sew this hair cap to his head. Now, if you wanted your guy to have long hair, then you could attach your hair to this hair cap and work it that way. The reason we do hair cap is because then if you're going to attach long hair to it, it doesn't look like bald scalp coming through weird funky looking doll hair. All right, so I'm going to set that on his head right about there. And now I am just going to tack it down. We just don't want it to come off. So it doesn't have to be beautiful, although it depends, you know, of course his hair is going to make or break his look. But he's not a model, so he doesn't have to be super gorgeous, right? I apologize for if you can hear my dog snoring in the background. She's very, very loud today. She sounds like a small human. She's 10. She's a little old lady, so I cut her lots of slack. Alrighty. Okay, so that's his hair. I'm good with it. Looks like dude hair, so got a nice buzz cut. And then I'm just gonna weave those ends in and cut them off. Now, since I've made his hair in this dark brown color, I think I'm going to go with a gray color for his hat. But let's put his face on first. The hat will be the last thing that we make together. And then our little character will be done. And then you can, if you're going to be making a girl, there are instructions for a girl after this section of the video. Now, this is just an old habit of mine. I tie 2 or 3 knots. Okay, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert my hook from the back. And it looks like his eyes are going to probably be about there. And what this knot will do is it will catch on the fluff inside of his head. So all I have to do at this point is just reach in here and pull that end in to hide it. And then I go 1, around the post section, this section in between. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to evenly place, as evenly as possible, we're going to place his other eye over here. You are welcome to make ears or anything else that you want to add to him. I keep mine very, very simple because I feel like the simpler the toy, the less choking hazards there are for baby or little ones. And then I go through that same process and I get them, the knots as tight as, not as tight, but as close as possible to the head. so that I end up with a fairly large knot. You see that there. All I'm going to do is go inside. I'm getting myself caught on the stuffing, and then I just pull all of that and hide it inside the head. And then he's got a set of baby blue eyes. I don't know if you can see him. And then I'm going to just finish him off with a happy little face. Now here is how I do his mouth. I'm going to enter from here, and I usually kind of try to go along the outer edge of the eye and match it up on the other side. And we're going to have this big long piece hanging over here, and that's okay. So then I will enter again over here, but then I come out in the middle section right about center like that. And this is going to create a little smile. And then I come out on the other side one more time. Reason I do that is because, once again, I put knots and tie this off really well. This is about the only time you are ever going to see me using knots to secure anything on these toys, because I don't believe knots alone are safe when you're talking about arms and legs and things like that. But when you're talking about a face, it's okay if the face comes off. A face can be put back on. All right, and there is his happy little face. And now we're going to work on his hat, and then he's going to be done. And then we're going to work on making a girl together right after this. So get out your pattern, and your pattern says to follow the first 3 rows of the farmer body, which means that we're going to start with 6 single crochets, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Pull that snug. We're going to do 2 single crochets in every single crochet. Around, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then the next row, we're going to do 1 single crochet and then an increase. So we'll have 18 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that extra little piece. I feel like after 3 rows, I've got that sucker well secured. So then it says round 4, we are going to do 1 more increase row, which means we're going to go into 2. So 1, 2, and on this one, I'm going to mark my first single crochet, just for my ease. 1, 2, and then increase, which will be 3, 4. And then we go 5, 6, and then increase. So that's 7 and 8. And then 1, 2, and increase. 1, 2, increase. At the end of this round, I don't know if I said it already, we'll have 24 stitches. 1, 2, increase, and 1, 2, increase. Alrighty, so that's through row 4. Let me just, okay, and then row 5, it says single in each single crochet and join with the front loop only of the first single crochet. So row 5, let's single all the way around. Almost done here. So that we are going to slip stitch to the front loop only of the first single. So here's where row 4 was, here's where row 5 is. This is the front loop only of the first single crochet of that row. So we're going to slip stitch to that. And then we're going to chain 2. And at this point, we are going to be working only in the front loops. Okay, so half double crochet in the same space. So that's 2. And then in the next 3. So 1, 2, 3. And the instructions say to 2 half double crochet in the next single. So that's an increase using half double crochets instead of singles, and then single in or half double into the next 3. And we're going to do that until we get to this chain 2, which is counting as the first half double crochet. So let's go ahead with our increase first. 1, 2, and then the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then increase. And then 1, 2, and 3. And then increase. 1, 2, and 3. Increase. 1, 2, 3, and then this is our last. So increase, and 1, 2, and 3. Now slip stitch to the second chain of the chain 2, and you can go ahead and cut that off. Don't have to leave it real long. All we're going to do is tuck in the ends. And the very last thing that we're going to do is put a hat band on our hat, but let's get this end tucked in first so it's all nice and neat. And we're going to get some more practice with surface stitching, because we are going to enter our hat band color. What color should we go with? Let's do blue. We'll do blue as our hat band color. Now go ahead and join, actually go like so, there we go. we're once again, kind of like we did with the barn and the fence, we are going to, and all the decorations that we did on the door, we want to keep our yarn to the back so that only the pretty braid comes out the front. So we are going to go into the spaces between the stitches, and we're going to pull up a loop and slip stitch. Don't do this very tightly, because otherwise you will squinch your hat up and it won't fit your farmer's head. But keep it nice and loose, but put a slip stitch in every space going around, basically where the half double crochet meets the single crochet over that last row. We're so close to being done with him. All right, almost done. And then go ahead and insert back into the starting point, because that'll finish off your slip stitch. And just pull that through. All right, so then there's your little hat band. Now these guys, I mean, if you want it to be decorative where there's ribbons hanging down, you can tie it and leave it. I'm going to end up tucking them in, but this is what he's going to look like. There's our little farmer with his hat and everything. Now, if you wanted this brim to be a little bit longer, you could do the same kind of increase that we did for the hat band to begin with. And instead of doing 3 in between, you would do your increase and then you would do 4. So if you want to increase your hat band one more time, you definitely can. But this is our farmer, and we are going to go ahead and set him aside. And if you're not going to stick around for the girl, then thanks so much for making the Jedediah character with me, the farmer. If you're going to stick around, right after this, we are starting making the girl. And this one's going to have some more exclusive stuff that's just going to be in the video. We're going to do some long braided hair on her. We're going to do a slightly different hat, and we're going to do a skirt on her. So these are all things that are not part of the written pattern. And hopefully you'll like them. Finish up our lady farmer body. Okay, so I am going to use a fun little rainbow yarn just because it's nice and bright and funky, and I want to. So give me just a second, I'm getting that prepared. And what we're going to do different with the lady farmer so that we can put a skirt on her later is join your color, but then I want you to only work in the back loops of this round only. So we are on row, what is this? This is row 20, oh no, 17. So we are on 17, and I'm still catching these into my work, but I'm only working in the back loop only so that it reveals or still has the front loop there, and we're going to use those later to attach a skirt. And the reason why we are going with, you know, so we're putting a skirt on her, right? The reason why we're going with the same color on the bottom of her body as her skirt is because it just kind of creates like a pair of panties for her, so you don't have to worry about putting a flesh tone or feeling weird about it or anything like that. This will just cover her up nicely. Like I said, You can just put her in a pair of overalls too. You don't have to do the skirt. I'm just showing you this so that you have options. All right, so we are going to now move on to row 18, which 18 through 21 is just going in the round, and we're working through both loops from 18 through 21. The only one we worked in the back loop only was that row 17. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to mark off the first stitch of row 18, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish up my through row 21, and then I'm going to stuff her, and I'll be back with you. Okay, so my girl is done, and I did finish up her bottom, and like I said, I've got loops here that we're going to make a skirt in. We're going to do that a little bit later. What we're going to start with first, though, is applying her arms and legs. I did take the liberty of going ahead and making them up ahead of time, just so that this would move a little bit faster, because we already went through the tutorial portion of it during the farmer. So I went ahead and I made blue arms, or blue sleeves for her arms, and then I went ahead and I made her legs actually flesh toned, because we're going to have a skirt on her. Now if you wanted to, and you wanted her to have bib overalls and have pants, you would just change this flesh tone color to the actual yarn that we used for her, what we're going to use for her skirt. So we're going to go ahead and get all of this stuff attached to her, and I'll be right back so that we can start on that skirt. Her legs we're going to treat the same as we did for the farmer, and we are going to weave through the back just to tighten it up just a little bit. And then we are going to use stick pins to place them fairly central to her body. And this way I get to look and see, you know, how far over are these legs going to be? I feel like this outer hip needs to be a little bit more out here. All right, and then we'll bring this in. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Leave a little bit more space for the other leg to get in there. I'm going to get the other leg positioned like this, and then I'm going to get them sewn into position, and then we'll go ahead and get her arms sewn on, and after that we'll work on the skirt. Alrighty, she's got all of her arms and legs in place, and we're ready to move on to the skirt portion. Now, just so that you remember, this is not in the written pattern. This is exclusive to the video. I probably won't be writing out this information. However, if you wanted to find written instructions for a skirt, I also have other toy bag patterns that have skirts in them. You can look up the Princess or Fantasy toy bag, which has a princess and a prince in it, and there's a skirt instruction in there. And then I also sell one called the Pioneer toy bag, which has Pioneer dresses and things like that. So what I'm showing you here today, you're just going to have to do with me on the video. There aren't any written instructions for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to spin her upside down so that her tummy loops are towards us, and we're just going to join with a chain 3, because we're going to double crochet in each of these loops. Actually, we're going to do 2 double crochets, and along the way I'm going to try and catch that yarn in there just so that I can tuck it in. So that chain 3 counts as a double crochet, so go ahead and double crochet into that open loop again, and then let's put 2 double crochets into each of the open loops going around. All right, keep going. I will see you over here when we get to the end of this round, and we'll keep going. Okay, so I've gone all the way around and I'm slip stitching to the first double crochet, which is that chain 3, and then I'm going to chain 3 again, and I'm going to double into that join space. I'm gonna do a single double, or just, you know, one double, and then I'm going to excuse me, increase in the next one, which means there's 2, and then just 1 in the next. And then after this row, all we're going to do is join and double crochet in each double crochet around. We won't do any more increase rows after this, because we don't want this skirt to get too full and frilly. A good way to make your skirt nice and full is by doing lots of increases really close together. But she's working on a farm, so we don't want it to get too ridiculous. As a matter of fact, she might be putting on her cute dress to go to the local hoedown in Polka. She's gonna go 2-stepping tonight, so she's gonna wear her cutest skirt. All right, keep going around. I'll see you over at the other side. Okay, and over in the last one, I've done my last increase, and I'm gonna do my last double crochet. I'm gonna join with the chain 3, and I'm chaining 3 again, but this time I'm gonna double into the next double crochet and in each double crochet around. And I'm gonna do this row and the next row exactly like this, and then I will come back and we'll see where we're at. Alrighty, so I finished those 2 rounds, and it brings my skirt length to right just under her butt. So I think I'm going to throw another 2 rows of double crochet on here, and then I'm going to cut that off, and that's going to be the length of my dress. And I am going to do the same kind of strap front and back that I did on the farmer to make her dress kind of like a little bib overall dress. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and complete that, and I'll be back when I finish the next 2 rows of double crochet, and you can make your dress length as long or as short as you want. All right, so I'm happy with the length of that skirt, and I went ahead and I cut it off. Now I'm going to join in the front, working around one of my posts here, kind of in between the double crochets. I'm just going to grab one of those open loops that aren't so open anymore, are they? Because we've got stuff in there. But I'm going to put some straps on the front of her dress. So the little farmer, what we did is we attached it here with a slip stitch, and then we chained 15, and I found that 15 was a little bit much for the back of his body. So I'm going to start with 13 chains for her. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And we're going to see how that hits her on the back. Oh, that's actually perfect. So it's nice and snug, and I'm going to just slip stitch around the the first row here, and then I'm going to chain 13 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. I'm going to bring that back across the front, and I'm going to slip stitch it. Boy, I keep pulling that out of view, don't I? I'm going to slip stitch it right here, and I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to leave a nice long end so that I can tack this down and not have to worry about not having enough yarn for all of that. All right, so I'm going to go in. I'm going to twist this so that the pretty side of my chain is to the top. And I'm going to go up by her shoulder, come through one of the stitches, I made a right mess of that, didn't I? All right, and then down. And I'm actually going to pop right over here to the other shoulder. And what that'll do is that'll snag that in there so that this doesn't move, even if they tug on it. And then I'm going to go back down. And this time I'm going to come out in the underneath part here. And I'm going to use that to secure my stitches. There we go. We'll just have one more to tuck in here. And I'm going to take this underneath her dress again. All right. Well, I am happy with the way that her dress turned out. I think it's completely adorable. And so, like I said, you don't have to make a dress for the girl. This is just an option, an optional pattern for you. You can do it obviously with any colors that you like. I did mine so that it kind of looked like she had panties underneath. You could do flesh tone if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. You could continue on with her shirt color and it just looks like a body jumper then. So this is her from the back and this is her from the front. Now we are going to first do her hair cap. I'm going to grab some yarn for that. I'm going to teach you how to do a long hairdo for her, and then she will also get a face, and then we will finish off with her hat. All right, so I started on her hair cap much the same that I did for the farmer. I followed the body pattern through row 5, which means the first 3 rows are increase rows till you get to 18 stitches, and then I did 2 rows of just 18 stitches all the way around. So I've got 5 rows for her hair. I only have 4 rows for his, but I wanted hers to be just a little bit longer, because what we're going to do is we're going to attach some hair to the sides here, and we're going to make some braids. All right, I'm going to leave this here because I need something to sew to my head, and then I'm going to take some yarn, and this is how I make my hair. It's just nice and simple. I just wrap it around my fingers, and I try to get at least 3 wraps per side. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll be generous and do 7, 8, 9. That'll give, no, 10, 11, 12. There we go. That'll give her extra hair for her braids. And I am going to go ahead and just snip it right there. And that's how I create my hair. Now I am going to take this hair, I'm going to divide it in two. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It should be 6 strands per side. And you can break it up into smaller packs if you want to. And this is kind of like latch hooking if you remember back in the day. I'm going to attach 1 pack of 3 to a hole on the bottom. And then I'm going to go right next to it. I'm going to attach another pack of 3. Now, if you wanted her to have long hair all over her head, I recommend that you don't put any more than 2 pieces of yarn together at once, but then go and around these loops here, you just go ahead and you start latch hooking them on, kind of like we did here. I'm going to create braids or pigtails or something on the side for her, but I'm going to first go to the opposite side and do the same thing over here with the remaining strings. There's 1. And there's 2. Okay, so now we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to break that down into 3. So we're going to do 4 strings per. And then I'm going to braid it. The longer you want your braid, the longer you want these pieces. And now you are going to need to put now here's a quick way of securing the bottom of your braid. Keep that one in the middle and take your 2 outside pieces and make a quick knot. Now I did not get all my pieces through there, but that's okay. All I want to do is just, you know, lightly secure that end just so it doesn't go anywhere while I'm getting my decoration together here. So I am just going to use a single piece of yarn. Go, and I'm going to tie it again. Or you could do like a surgeon's knot where you cross it over, wrap it twice, and pull. That sucker's not going anywhere. And then, or you can do a square knot, you can do whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. Now, I'm going to attempt to make a bow out of this because I did not leave my ends very long. Ooh, I made it work. How did I do that? You might want to leave your ends a little longer than that. But then I'm just going to go through and quickly trim the scary hairy ends off. And I've got a braid. And just to show you what this looks like on our girl. That's how the braid is going to look on her. So if you wanted to make this hair come down a little bit further, you certainly could. It doesn't have to be up as high as mine is. I just wanted to make sure I had enough space for her face. So I left my hair a little bit shorter as far as the bald cap is concerned. So I'm going to finish up the braid on this side, and I'll be back to sew it on her head. Alrighty, here's another opportunity for us to engage our straight pins if we would like, just to make sure that her hair does not shift while I am attaching it. I'm just going to poke a couple of these guys in here. And then I'm going to start in the back. I just kind of grab from the body, and then I start working. I just want to keep my stitches hidden so that they don't stick out or add extra fringe. To her hair. Remove that one. All right, and then when I have the last stitch in place that I want, I get it up into the hair here, and then just weave back and forth till I'm satisfied that it's not going to go anywhere. And cut that off. Now we are going to put a face on her, but isn't she cute? Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to give her some green eyes, I think. And I've got some leftover red from when I took, well, I took a piece of worsted weight yarn and I divided it into two separate, I just peeled it apart and divided it like that so that I could make some DK weight for her lips and his lips. So we're going to start with the eyes. I'm going to show you a little trick that I do. I make a nice big knot, so I go like 3 times because it makes a nice fat knot then. And then I poke from behind. I will stick the needle in, and then I poke it through where I want the eyes to come out or start. And then when I pull it through here, that knot gets caught in the fluff that we have on the inside of the doll. So you don't have to do a whole lot of extra work as far as weaving an end and all of that stuff. So I'm just going around the actual row, and then I'm going to put her other eye right here. And then I believe in embroidery, these are called straight stitches. I could be totally out in left base. I'm not really sure. But I only go 3 times. And then I treat it the same on the back side as I did when I was going in. Just don't pull too tight. I make a nice big fat knot. The beauty of these faces that we put on is that we can just go with our hook right like this and snag that and pull it in and hide it in the fluff. All right, so she's got some eyes. And now she's gonna have a cute little smiling mouth. Now this is the different way that I do her smile. I go based on the outside of the eye, and then I get into that hole there, and I will poke it out on the other side, on the outside of the eyes, and pull it through, but leave a nice long end. Now re-enter into that same hole, but come out about halfway through. And then poke it back in and come out. You're putting it like basically right below and then coming out over here, because what we'll do here is we're going to tie this in a knot. I'm going to trim, and then with my hook, I'm going to pull those loops or these long pieces into the fluff in her head. And I just hide it that way. And there we go. She's got a lovely smile. She's got a pretty dress on, and now the last thing that we have to do is make her hat. All right, I actually went ahead and I finished off my little girl with a hat just like the farmer's hat. The only difference that I made with the farmer's hat is that I went ahead and I did one more row after the initial brim here. And so this is the difference that you're going to find between the two hats if you do choose to go ahead and make one more row. It's going to look a little bit more like a bucket hat. But I didn't also put a hat band on hers because I'm going to put a little flower on hers. So his looks more like so, and that's what it looks like on the top. And hers looks like this, and that's what it looks like on the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to decorate her hat. Now, if you're ready for some teeny tiny flower crochet, this is one more exclusive thing that you're going to get in this video, because this is not included in the written instructions. This is just something I'm doing on a whim here. So we're going to have some fun with making a little flower for her hat. Now I want it to be semi-organic and, you know, look like a real flower. So I'm going to use green as the center of my flower, and I'm going to use white, kind of like a daisy. If I could just centrally locate some yellow in this particular colored one, I would do that, but I don't feel like ripping my yarn apart in order to get to that yellow. So we'll just go with a green center. And if you have a little one that you're making this specifically for, sometimes it's fun to help them, or not help them, but let them help you and pick out colors for their outfits and the flowers and things like that, because it gives them a sense of ownership. Alrighty, so we are going to start with a chain 1 in our magic ring, and then I'm going to start with actually 10 single crochets. So we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And now if you feel like, hang on, I gotta pull that. If you feel like that is too big for the center of a flower, we're going to put, this is going to end up with 5 petals on it. And it is going to be a big flower for her hat. And it's going to be a big flower if you want to put one on her skirt. But we're being whimsical and fun here. But if you wanted to do something that was a little bit more scale, you could use a smaller hook, like a C, a D, an E, something like that. And maybe some embroidery thread or something like that, that would make a smaller flower. So we are going to just go ahead, and this is the one time we're going to go ahead and join. We are going to go ahead and pull this all the way through, and then we're going to just secure it off. So I am going to now, since I have just this circle, I'm just going to pick one of these loops to go into, and we're going to join there. And then we're going to start with a chain 2, which is going to technically count as like a half double crochet. So we're going to chain 2, and in that same space, I want you to now put a double. And now I want you to put a treble. Okay, and then in the next one, I want you to start with a treble. And then I want you to go to a double. I want you to chain 2. And I want you to slip stitch back into that stitch that we've been working on. Now, slip stitch over to the next stitch. And chain 2. We want these individual petals to stick out. So double crochet, and then I want you to triple in that same space. Now in the next one over, we're going to go triple, double, and chain 2. So treble, triple, treble, however you want to say that, a double, and then we're going to chain 2 and slip stitch. This one can get a little bit tricky. Just got to maneuver it. And then slip stitch into the next one over. So we're actually taking up 2 single crochets with each petal. But you'll find in nature a lot of things are uneven. They are not in even proportion. So rarely are you going to find a flower with 4 petals. Rarely are you going to find a 4-leaf clover. You always find 3, you find 5, you find it's always an off number. So we are going with odd numbers because nature prefers an odd number. All right, so chain 2 and then double and then treble in that same spot. Next stitch over, treble and double and chain 2. Next stitch over, slip stitch, chain 2 and double and treble and treble in the next one over and double and chain 2 and slip stitch. Go to the next one and slip stitch. You could probably cut these guys off if you've been carrying them along. These are ready to go, and they'll be hidden in our stitching anyway. So chain 2 and double and treble. Now in the next one, treble and double and chain 2 and slip stitch. Go ahead and chain 1, cut, and voila, you've got a little 5-petal flower. We are going to stitch this onto her hat just because I feel like her hat needs just a little bit of embellishment. I know it's kind of a crazy color, but we want to give her a vibe, don't we? So, or I do. So just go ahead and stick that nice big flower on the top. And then I'm going to stitch up into my petals to hide that white. So as I'm coming through, I am poking in where the stitches are, but I'm going to secure it through the petal. And you know what? I know that when my little girl was small and she played with these kinds of toys, the brighter, the more exaggerated, the more fun it was, the more she loved it. So don't be afraid of putting oversized things on toys. Kids love that little bit of imagination. And don't feel like you have to necessarily put everything and the kitchen sink on your toys, because the kids are going to imagine it anyway. All you're doing is giving them a small prompt, an avenue to get them started. Characters to act out their stories. My kids were always about their stories. All right, so we've gone all the way around the flower, and I'm just going to go ahead and weave my ends in here. Tuck that in. Cut that off. Flip it back out. And there we go. She's got a big old fancy hat on now. And this is what she looks like. You can tip it back. You can keep it however. All right, there we go. That's our little girl. And thanks for making these characters with me. Make sure that you come back for the next set of videos, because we're going to start working on the farm animals.